Shot matching, everyone's favorite topic. Just hear me out for 1 second. This is basically you being a Houdini, okay? You're a magician. If you do your job right, nobody will ever notice the color shift from shot to shot. And if that happens, my friend, you're a freaking colorist. Let's just take a moment to talk about what your job really is as a colorist, okay? I'm not talking about color science and blah, 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 and understanding LUTs and this and that. Let's forget about all of it. Your job as a colorist is to enhance the story through the art of color. That's it, job done. So you don't have to overcomplicate it, you don't have to overthink it. As long as you can just be the magician in the back and seamlessly enhance the experience, that storytelling, the vision that the director had, if you can just enhance that through the art of color, you did your job and then some. So that's it. That's what shot matching is all about. Now I'm going to take a second to talk about why shot matching is so important and why you need to put all your effort and energy into this module to really deep dive and understand what I'm talking about. So here it goes. The most important thing is, if you want to get a call back from the client that you did a gig for last week, shot matching would be it, because anyone and everyone can notice a jump between shot to shot, and if it just doesn't match. If you go from cool temperature to all of a sudden warm tones, everyone will notice it. Your mom will notice it that doesn't know jack about color grading. It just jumps out. It's one of those jarring things. Nothing will scream more that you're an amateur colorist than when you don't know how to match shots. And this is one of those areas where most of your time will be spent. So the better you get at it, the more efficient you're gonna be as a colorist. Trust me, this comes from real experience. If you're not great at shot matching, you're never gonna be able to meet your deadlines. I'm telling you this because there was a time when I was spending hours on my hero shot, and then I would move on to my neighboring shot, middle click to copy the grade that I just did, and it will never replicate. And then I had to regrade that shot all over again, and the clock was running out, and I was already 3 hours in, and I had 150 shots to grade by the end of the day, and it just didn't happen. So I'm telling you, this is the worst case scenario. I'm not saying every job is gonna be like this, but you should always prepare yourself for the worst and then go from there. All right, now let's talk about how to get better at shot matching. Number one, I'm gonna say this, do not roll your eyes on me for this one because I've been hammering this idea throughout this masterclass, and that will be practice, practice, practice. By practicing, you're gonna develop an intuition that's gonna help you when you see something that's just a little off and it needs some fixing. Number two, scopes. They're your best friends when it comes to shot matching, and when your intuition fails you, scopes are gonna come in handy to rescue you. Number three, and that is very important, and that's a pro tip, get everything in the ballpark, color correct, then shot match everything, then grade your footage. So don't start creating a look before you shot match everything. So color correction, shot matching, and then apply a look. Number four, knowledge of understanding different cameras and their color science. So the first module in our masterclass was cameras, because I needed you to learn how each camera works and responds to color tools inside DaVinci Resolve. And once you have that knowledge, you can bring that over into this module and really excel at shot matching. So here's your course materials for shot matching. I will highly recommend downloading each one separately. And just one more time, I'm going to quickly take you through how to import your project. So once you download all the course materials, you're going to go into your database, and home looks like this. So I would highly recommend going into shot matching, and then you're going to right click and say import project, and then you're going to go to your course materials, and after you unzip your DRP file, you're going to click on that and say open, and that's going to bring in your project. And then obviously once you're inside the project, you have to relink the footage to the course material. Once you're inside the course material, I want to show you this, because we're going to be using this power grade throughout this module. So I want to show you how to bring that in. So when you open up your gallery right here under the color page, usually you'll have stills 1 or something like that, and then you're going to have power grade 1. What I need you to do in power grade, not stills 1, in power grade, to right click in this area and say import. And then you're gonna go to the course materials and shot matching wherever that lives on your end, and you're going to click on this file that says the cosman_nodes, and you're going to import that. So once you bring it in, it's going to look like this after it comes in, and then you'll be able to apply that and follow along for the lessons ahead. All right, let's do a quick project overview. So let me show you how everything is set up in here. As soon as you open the project, you're going to see two main folders and a timeline bin. So you have same camera and different cameras. And under same camera, you have two projects. So you got Hype Sandwich and Blind Date. And under different cameras, you have the Cosman, and then you got the Great Ride. And if you go to the timelines, you know, you're probably getting used to how I name these and what you need to do. So use the timeline that says start for each one, and then check out finish for a reference. And that's how the project is set up. All right, so let's get to the meat. What makes DaVinci Resolve so great is not that it's the ultimate software when it comes to color grading, is that it gives you all these tools that are readily available for you to analyze your neighboring shots to better match them and just get the best result out of your footage. Now, these things are not common to other editors, so if you're coming from Final Cut, Media Composer, or Premiere Pro, then you might not be familiar with what I'm about to show you, but this is the difference between you becoming a professional colorist or you just kind of shooting in the dark and using Resolve as a novice and not as an experienced user. So the tools that I'm going to be taking you through next are going to be gallery stills and memories, group clips, local versus remote grades, split screen, lightbox, and how to send your lightbox over onto your client monitor so you can see what the end result is going to look like in a snapshot. All right, let's deep dive into what gallery stills are and what are memories. So I'm going to start off with gallery stills. Right here in your top left corner, you're going to see a tab for gallery. Go ahead and click on that. It might look like this on your end, so you got to click on this little guy to pop it open and see what it says right here. So this is what's going to be default. You're going to have stills 1, power grade 1. Now, let me just get right into the difference between stills and power grade. Stills is tethered to your project. So anything that you're doing within that project lives in stills. So if you move on to another project, your stills won't show up that you saved in the prior project in your new project. On the other hand, power grade are universal. So when you drop anything in your power grade in Resolve, that will show up in your entire database. So that's tethered to your database. So stills tethered to your project. Power grade tethered to your database. So anywhere you go within your project is going to show up. So in here, I saved a node tree structure that's mine, and I created this node tree structure, which you guys should be receiving as well when you get the course materials. And that's basically a base grade whenever I'm working on something. So it saves me a lot of time instead of like creating nodes per shot and then naming them and all that stuff. By hitting just one button and applying this thumbnail, it's gonna do all that for me. So let me just give you an example. If I double click on that and apply it, look what's happening over here. It brought in everything, and I leave everything empty or on default for most of the nodes because that's when I have to get in and work on it per shot basis. But having this as my go-to point, then having just node 1 and then recreating it every time per shot saves me tons of time. This works for me, so it's included. You can give it a shot and see how it works, but I will highly recommend trying out your own and see what you like best and then saving it in your power grade. Then that is going to be accessible throughout the database. So anytime you start a new project, you can go into your power grades under gallery and apply that as your base. Now moving back to stills. What's the purpose of stills and when to use it? So let me just give you a quick example of when you can use stills and how it's effective when it comes to shot matching and why it's one of the most important tools that you got. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do just a base grade, nothing too fancy. Just give it something, give it a little pop, some saturation. I'm gonna pull out some of this blue that's happening, but a bit too much. So I'm gonna just dial that back a little bit. You know, this is okay. This is good. So what I'm gonna do is now I'm gonna go ahead and grab that still. There's multiple ways you can do it. I'm gonna show you on screen instead of using my panel so you can see what I'm doing. So on your main canvas, you just right click and you say grab still. When you do that, it shows up in your stills gallery right here. Let's just say if we want to create a new version and we want to switch things up, we want to do something. So the idea is that anytime you have your first look dialed in and before you go in and make changes to it, you want to grab a still. So you can always go back to that point, okay? Or reference back to that point. So let's just say the director goes, hey, can you add some warmth? It's just like I want some warmth in the highlights. I'm gonna be like, okay, no problem. So let's add some warmth and let's warm it up. So how do you feel about that? You know, the director is like, can we see before and after? Can we see the other version that you had? Okay, no problem. I'm gonna go ahead and hit play still and bring in my other image. So let me show you how else you can do it. I can right click on it and say play still. So now we have our other image giving us side-by-side comparison, and then you can see what's active right here. I can also do, so right now I have a horizontal side-by-side. I can do vertical side-by-side. I can do a mix. And then there's all these different options that you can go through. I usually leave it on horizontal most of the time, but sometimes you will be using vertical, but these are the two most common ways. So once you have that, you can go, hey, what do you think now? And then if you want to get rid of it, you just hit Command W and you can see the keystrokes right here. Command W, it goes away. Command W, it shows up again. And then we can just look at it and be like, okay, the director goes, I do like the pop, you know, how about if we can split the difference? And then I can give them something in between. So that's the idea of your stills. Another huge thing about stills is that when you're doing shot matching, so I go to this shot and let's just say I just do some basic rough correction and I go, let's add some saturation and this is good. Now, if we want to shot match it and make sure that it goes well with this shot, the shot before, I can bring in my still next to my image. And by the way, if you click right here, you can move it around and see how much or how little you want to see. So if I park it right here and I focus on the asphalt, the road, I can totally see that I have way too much blue than what I got going on right here. So there's a couple of different ways we can approach it and fix it. So let me just use my temp control right here just to dial it in a little bit and add some magenta in there. So I mean, we've come a long way. I mean, we started with this and now we're here, and I'm just saying, you know what, this is looking much better than what I had before. You know, and obviously we can work more to dial it in because there's more magenta here than there is here. But that's just to give you an example that that's what it's going to be used for. And then you can just get rid of it. Now, if you want to look at the other side, if you want to flip that from right to left, you can do that by holding Option W. So if you hit Option W, you can flip that and it'll go to the other side. So a couple of things that I want to show you once you have gallery stills, how to really maximize it. I'm going to show you that right here. So this guy, click on this dude right here, and then you have all these little tabs right here. I'm going to go to the last one. The last one is for my reference sizing. So reference, this is the reference image. What we're pulling right here is the reference image, and this is the sizing for my reference image. So a lot of the times what you want to do is you want to make this to 0.5, half the size, so we can see the whole picture. And then I'm going to take my pan and I'm going to move it over. And if I move it over, now I see my entire shot. Okay, and that's very useful because now we see the whole picture, all the colors in it. So that makes it really easy for me to go, you know what? Yeah, I definitely need way more magenta, because even if I'm looking at the rocks right here, they're way more magenta than what I'm getting right here. And then do I need more warmth? Maybe a little less, like whatever it is, you can dial it in right here. And then you can just bypass the color and see where you started to where you are, and if you're getting close. The reference sizing is very useful. Now, if you're somewhere else and you're like, what's going on? I want this bigger. Like, this is not looking right. Like, what is this? Like, this is not looking right. I want it to be full screen. Go back to how it was. It's pretty simple. Just go back into your sizing tab, and then under here, you can just hit this guy right here, which is going to reset everything, and it's just going to go back to normal. So that was a handy little trick that I wanted to show you, which is very useful because these tools are there, but you really have to mold them into however you want to use them. Another useful thing that I can show you is this guy right here. So this is different than this. So when you hit Option W, you basically choose which side you want to reveal of the reference, and vice versa. But if you hit this guy right here, you can actually flip this image, the reference image, and see the other side. So now I can focus on what's happening here is what's happening here. So I can like really dial it in. So this is better here, and if I go here, then that's better here, because I want to see the bikes are right there. So I want to see this grass right there instead of what it's showing me, which is way past this frame, and that's not really helpful. So that's when I'm going to be flipping that and using that to my advantage. So all these tools are there, and they're very, very helpful. You got to play around with it. I would highly recommend getting in there and start experimenting with it to make sense of it and how to best use it for your project. Another thing that I'm going to show you is that if you have multiple timelines in one project, I will highly recommend right-clicking right here and add still album, and then each album will be your timeline. So this one we can call the Great Bike, because that is my timeline. Actually, you know what? It's called the Great Ride. I don't know why I called it the Great Bike. So let's change the name of this project really quick. We're going to take a quick little detour. I'm going to pop that open. And then everything from the Great Ride lives inside here. And then when I go to, let's just say, the Cosman finish, when we're going to be going through this project, then I can call this one the Cosman. So I would highly recommend keeping everything very clean and tidy in here. Sometimes if you're working on one timeline, but you have different versions, then you're going to version them. So then you're going to have the Great Ride V1, V2, stuff like that. So if you're just creating completely different grades each time, then you're going to do that. Sometimes I've done that on commercials where I created a cool look and I created a warm look, and that was for the entire 30-second spot. So then I had Mazda cool, Mazda warm, and then we went through and we picked which one we liked and we worked off of that. So those were some of the things that you need to know with stills. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using these tools throughout this module, so you're going to get to see it in action. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to memories. Memories are kind of tucked away, so this little guy arrowed down on that little ledge, you got to click on this guy and it'll pop this open. These are your memories, and let me show you what it means and how to best use them. The difference between stills and memories is this. Memories are great for when you're working on something like that, where we have many different locations and some of the shots that are repeated. So this shot is somewhat repeated right here. So we have this shot and we have this shot. Now let's just say if we have graded this shot right here, then we move on and we graded this shot right here, then we move on, we apply that grade, but then we fix it because obviously it's not really coming through all the way. It's a bit too warm. So now we're gonna pull that out, make it something like that, and that's another version. Then we're gonna go here, and then that was shot with a different camera, so that's not coming through. So we're gonna go in here, we're gonna use our highlights, bring that down, add some warmth, and then just add some magenta, whatever, you know, like for now, I mean, I'm just like giving you an example. We're not grading this stuff. So these are 4 grades. Then we go right here. Imagine if you go down the road right here and then you get another shot that's a drone shot, and you had created a look for it back in shot 1, and now you're on, imagine, shot 130, and you're like, oh man, where was that look? But let's just say that you're bouncing back and forth between locations and shots, total of like 8 different shots. So like you have 4 locations, 4 cameras. So if you fill up your memory bank, if you have 8 looks saved here that are different with different cameras, you can keep reapplying them as your base grade and then work off of that, if that makes any sense. So let me just demonstrate what I'm talking about. So I can come right here and I can go, you know what? I want to save that as my memory bank A. So I can click save and it saves right here, and you can see the shortcut keys right here. Now I go to my second shot and I go, that's a pretty good grade 2. Let me save that on 2. So I'm gonna save it on memory bank 2. I move on, I go to this and I go, let's save that to 3. I move on and I go, let's save that to 4. So now I got these 4 shots. The beautiful thing about it is that now when I go to my 5th shot, instead of, let's just say if this 5th shot was right here, and then I had to scroll all the way back and then middle click on this clip, I don't need to hunt down the shot anymore because it lives in my memory bank. So I can easily just go load memory 1 with the hotkey, and boom, it comes in. So that is the beauty of having these right here. And now it's obviously looking a little different than this guy. It's a bit warmer, so I can go ahead and make adjustments accordingly to balance it out. That's the beauty behind memory bank. You can just have 8 looks readily available when you're moving on, and sometimes maybe you can use this feature as an experiment and you can drop in a cool look and stumble upon something new, or you can use it in a way that I said, or I use, which is if I'm working on a shoot where there's 4 different locations and 2 different cameras with each location, that's a total of 8, then I will save each of those as a memory. So when I move along, I can just drop the appropriate one on the shot that I'm working on and then just build my grade from there. So that was a quick overview of gallery stills and memories, and I'm going to be using these as we dive into the tutorial section of this module. This is by far one of the most powerful tools when it comes to analyzing shots, and it's this guy right here, split screen. It gives you so many different options, and I promise you, before right now, you have never seen all the things that I'm about to show you that this tool is capable of. So let's get right into it. So the first thing that is going to be defaulted to would be version. When you set this up, you're not going to see any difference, and you're going to be like, wait, what is it even doing? Is it even active? Is that a mistake? It's active and it's not a mistake, and let's just go through what this means. So right now it's set to this. If I were to bring it down and set it to versions and original, look what's going to happen. So that is giving me before, and then this is my after, what I created right here. Okay, and I can just play it back and it gives me a smooth playback for my color corrected version to my original version. Now what I can do is I can go back to version. So what that means is I'm going to save this version. Now I'm going to go, I want to add some warmth in the highlights, and just want to level it out. Something like that. And now let's just see, that's just a little stylized version I'm creating, and let's see how that stands with what we had. So that's what we had, our previous version. That's a new version. And now I go, you know what, I like it, it's really cool. I like how it looks like it's early in the morning and the hue is really nice on the grass. Let's create another version. So I'm going to create another version, and now this time we can go, you know what, let's just push it a bit further, right? So let's just keep going, and now let's balance it out, and let's add a little bit more. So something like that. And now I can go, show me everything, even the original. So then here we got our neutral, our warm and warmer, and then our original. And we can evaluate all these shots in real time and get to decide which one is the winner. And thanks to Resolve for utilizing hardware so well that it gives you a hiccup-free, full res playback. So that is one way to use it. Now I'm going to take you through all of these, okay? So let's just go to the top and start from the top. We're not going to touch current groups because it will make more sense when I create groups and show you what it does. So we're going to skip that for now. I'm going to go to highlight modes, which is very useful. So this, looking at that makes no sense. You're just kind of like, what am I looking at? But let me show you really quick. Now if I just want to isolate my highlights and I go, let's just grab my highlights only, something like that, maybe a little more than highlights, so just stuff like that. Just grab that, and then I want to say, let's just boost my gain there. So I'm gonna show you what it's doing. Any change that's happening is shown right here. This is giving us our black and white, and this is giving us our regular highlights, what we're grabbing. So you can see, and then obviously you can see the change right here. It will show you what's happening. So it's just popping all that information right here, and then I can again do a real-time playback. It's just such an incredible, powerful tool. It is unreal. I use it all the time for everything. Let's move on to our neighboring clips, and this is by far my favorite feature of this. Okay, so just look at that. It's gonna pick 2 shots prior and then 1 forward. So that's what it's gonna do. And then I can get to see that, oh my god, like this is way too warm than this, or if I want to change that I can select this shot and make it match this shot right here. So I can go, you know what, I want to add the same warmth and tone that I got going on. Again, I'm not grading it right now. When I do grade it, I'll get into it and then you'll see the difference. But right now, I'm just giving you a gist of what's happening and what it's doing. So, I mean, we can say that, okay, this is looking a lot better than what I had. Then I can go right here and fix that shot and you get the idea. So this is an amazing tool at your fingertips where you can just like do a playback and just really see, and it can loop it and you can see what's happening and what needs fixing. If you're going through 800 shots a day or something like that, this could be a lifesaver. And I've worked in this mode because when you're looking at your client monitor, my client monitor is about 55 inches, so I see a really big screen, and then even if it's a split like that, I get a substantial real estate where I can make appropriate corrections. So that was that. Move on to the next section, which is selected album, and I'll show you. If you remember, these are considered albums, okay? And if I go right here to my memories, this is also considered an album. So look what happens when I go right here and select selected album. Look what happens when I hover over. It's applying, it's leaving the first grade that we have right here. That's gonna be 1. And then this is gonna be 2, and then 3, 4, 5. So we have total of 5 grades, and this A is our 2 on our screen, on our canvas. And if I do a playback, look, we can see a playback of all these grades at once. So that's what I was trying to tell you, that memories are really cool, because if you have 8 different looks saved up here, you can very quickly come in here, hover over, choose the selected album option under your split screen, and then do a playback and see, maybe you'll stumble upon something crazy. So that is there for you to do just that. Let's move on to the next one. Selected clips, another extremely useful feature. So this would be used a lot of the times in something like that, where what you have to do is, in your timeline, you have to select a clip that you want to match this to. So if I'm on this shot, or if I'm on this shot and I want to match it to this, then I will click on that. I will go to my shot that I want to change and then select the one that I want to reference, and it's going to give me a side by side. and then I can look at it and then make appropriate changes. So that is another amazing feature. So between selected clips and neighbor clips, I use these two a lot when I'm grading reality TV or a documentary. And then let's move on to our selected LUTs. Wow, I just couldn't be happier that they added this feature. This is so good. It's so good. So that's what it is. You go under your LUTs right here, and now I can go, you know what? Because at the end you can see I have this node called Creative LUT. So once I create my look, then at the end I just want to give it some extra juice, and I want to see what else we can pull out of what we already got. So these are all the LUTs that I created, part of my LUT pack series. And I can go in here and I can go, you know what? I want to try this guy. So I'm going to click on that, command click, and I'm going to select that. I'm going to say, give me my teal and orange, half. Give me my high contrast, saturated warm look. And then give me a funny film with yellow tint look. And you know what? While you're at it, give me a VHS gunky nasty look. Now I can select all these, turn that off to get more real estate, and then I can do a playback, and it's going to give me a playback of all my looks in one snapshot. And then I can go, you know what? Now I'm looking at it, I got to be honest, this is kind of cool. This look right now is looking pretty good. I can work off of that and just dial back some of the things, but it gives it a really nice cinematic look. Also, this one is pretty good too. So that is an extremely powerful tool right here, selected LUTs, to do that. Now let's move on. And it's a very exciting one too, because if you just want to look at a bunch of LUTs at once, you can do that here by using split screen. Now I can go under selected still grades, and these are your gallery stills. So everything that's living right here. So basically it's picking this shot right now from the gallery, and then I can do a playback, and it's giving me the grade that we had saved. And remember, it was kind of warm and we have to neutralize it. So it's giving me that grade right there. And now I can go in and I can do selected still image. So that is basically this image frozen. So it's not moving at all. And now I can look at that and be like, oh, okay, so maybe bring down the warmth a little bit and try to match it there. But if you remember, we created different versions, so I can just go through my versions, and remember this one was our base version, so I can park it on that and then do a playback and be like, okay, this is matching a little bit better, so maybe we can use this as a starting point. So that's there for you for that reason. And we are going to go back to versions, and those were all the versions we created, and then versions and original. So you can see the power of split screen. Think of split screen versus gallery stills as that gallery stills, if you're working on a product shoot, something, you know, where you have a Pepsi can and you want to match those colors, or if you're working on a car commercial where the colors really matter and it has to be the same for whatever car you're grading, then you're going to bring that JPEG in that's provided to you by your client to make sure that you keep the integrity of their product. Sometimes if you're working on something, a project, and a lot of the times I'm bringing in references from movies, and then I want to try to create something like that, gallery stills are going to be great. But when you're inside your project and you're shot matching and you're trying out different things, or if you're trying out LUTs, you saw the power of split screen, and Resolve is going nuts. It's becoming so powerful, and the way it uses hardware is that you can really push the limits and do so much in real time, and that's what separates DaVinci Resolve as a color tool compared to any other product in the world. All right, now let's talk about group clips. When to use them, what it is, and should you use it at all. Group clips are super useful, and you can use them however you like. You can break up your timeline into scenes, you can break them up into cameras, you can break them up into looks. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to break these up into cameras. So if I look right here underneath my clip, it tells me the name of the clip. And just by looking at these, I can tell that anything that starts with C is shot on my Sony a6500. Anything that starts with A is shot with my Canon C200. Now that I know that, what I can do is I can grab all the ones that are shot with Canon right here, right click on it and say add into a new group. And then I'm gonna call it C200. Okay? So now there's a little link right here. And I'm gonna show you how we're gonna be using these. I'm gonna grab everything else that starts with C, and I'm gonna right click on it, and I'm gonna say call it A6500. That's my Sony. So look what happens. So now there's these little links when I click on Sony, and then when I click on anything with my C200, it's gonna remove the link from Sony and put it on all the clips that are part of that group. And let me show you how this could be super powerful. So as soon as you put these in groups, it's gonna create 2 extra dots here. So before you had clip and timeline, now you have, if you hover over, it's gonna tell you. So you have group pre-clip and you have group post-clip, and then you have your timeline. So the great thing about that is that if I go under my pre-clip and I go, you know what, let me just create another node and drop my C-Log3 LUT here, look what it just did. It updated all these shots. So it's added that LUT to all these clips. So now with just one click, we applied these to all these shots, and I can do the same here under Sony. And you will know that you're in your pre-clip mode because the thumbnail is highlighted in yellow, and if you go back here, it's highlighted in orange. So back here, now I can go to my Sony S-Log2 and I can go apply that LUT, and look what it did. It applied it to all my Sony clips in one go. For things like adding grain or sharpening or a global adjustment to your overall look, if you want to apply like a creative LUT, this could be very useful, so you don't have to do it per clip basis. Like, I mean, at the end, let's just say if we go into our clip and now we make some changes and we go pop the car out a little bit, bring this down a little bit, give it some saturation, and then I go, you know what, this is good. Now what I want to do is I want to apply an overall grade. So I'm going to go in here, so I can go, let's make it super summery and warm, and then let's just balance out my blacks, something like that, and I'll go, you know, this is my warm look. Now the thing is that this gets applied on all of these shots. So that's the cool thing. Like, we can just apply this look at the end and it's gonna get translated on everything. In the pre-clip, you can apply the camera LUT, you can do all your adjustments in the clip tab, and then you can apply your creative LUT, your ultimate look, in the group clip, and that's gonna be translated to all the shots that are part of that group. So you can see how much time you can save. When I'm working on a project that has 800 shots or 500 shots and I have to grade them in a day, I will go through my entire timeline during my prep process and I will start creating groups. I will have groups based on in-car footage, drone shots, GoPros, A cam, B cam, and then that way I can quickly drop in my camera LUTs, my looks at the end, and sharpening or adding glow, and I don't have to do those things per clip based. I can just do it either pre or post clip tab. So play around with it, and everyone's situation is different, but I just gave you different scenarios that you can use this in to really accelerate your workflow. Alright, now let's talk about local versus remote grades, what it is and when to use it. It's one of those hidden gems that nobody talks about but can save you hours and hours. Here's how it works. I have to hover over right here and right click and go and choose use remote grades. By default, you're always in local grades. So if I check this on, look what happens. Just look at these thumbnails, something is going to change. So I'm going to go to use remote grades and boom. You see these little arrows? What that's telling me is that this is part of the same clip. So when we hit record on the camera, this is all part of the same clip, and then I added these B-roll shots in between, right? So let me show you how that's beneficial. Right now I'm just giving you a super short example with 5 clips. Imagine you have 700 clips and you have multiple shots that go over your B-roll. So what that means is, let's just use this example here. Let me turn off my remote grades first and show you how traditionally you would work. So if we go to use local grades and let's just create a quick look. I'm just gonna do something here. So let's just do something like that, give it some saturation. Okay, that's my look. Oh, now I go to this shot and I have to middle click, apply it, go to this shot, middle click and apply it. And now imagine if you have 700 shots, you're scrolling through and you have to manually apply each thing. What if I go back and somehow I decide, you know, I just want to add a little bit more warmth in. Balance it out. You know what? I don't know. I mean, I'm just liking this one a little bit more. So now what do? It wasn't even the first shot. So now I have to go here and be like, whoa, what was that? So I click on this and then I go here and I'm like, did I apply it to this or not? And then you apply it here and you move on. Again, super easy right now because we only have 5 shots. Think of it if you have 700 shots and you're going through and you did a talking head and it's a documentary and you had 2 long takes or 4 long takes that are just talking head, A-roll, and then you have B-roll laid on top of it. And anytime you make a change to your talking head or your A-roll, you want it to translate throughout the entire piece. So now let me just reset all of these and show you the difference with your remote grades and why you would want to turn remote grading on in that example. So now that we have this turned on, anything that's, look at, it's not doing it with these because these are different clips from the same camera but different clips. So it's smart enough to know that, hey, these are not part of the same thing. It links these together because they were shot at the same time and is the same clip. So now if I go here and I go, let's grade this really fast, and I go, this is cool, let's add some saturation and let's park it there. And now I go here and I say, let's grade this, add some saturation, and I go, let's go to the next shot. Our color is already there. What we graded here, translated over here to over here. And now I go, I want to make some change to this. Like, let's just add some warmth, cool off our shadows, more warmth. Something like that is cool. When I go here, it's all translated. It was updated automatically. So I hope it makes sense. And definitely the biggest use for this is when you're grading reality TV or documentaries where you have long A-roll that has a bunch of B-roll layered on top of it. You don't want to middle click and keep applying the same grade, and maybe you can make a mistake. But if you are under remote grading, that will never happen, because even if you don't pay attention, Resolve got your back. It's all about the macro, the big picture, and nothing gets you there faster than this guy right here, Lightbox. So let's say you've graded your entire picture, everything is dialed in, and you think that you nailed it. Well, you wouldn't know until you click this guy right here, and it can give you a snapshot, a storyboard, if you will, of the entire piece, just like that. And you can just scroll through and go, okay, this looks pretty good, everything is even, and if it's not, it's not, then you gotta fix a few things. The cool thing is that you can make changes right here. I could be in that frame and go, let's do this, let's add some warmth, let's bring this down, let's add some contrast, and I can do it right here. You can finish your entire piece and then park on your global adjustment node for each shot, and then you can come in here and make those micro adjustments. And we're gonna demonstrate that in the later lessons. And this is just a very clean, nice way to look at it on a macro level, and you can have your director or your DP sit next to you and watch it through, get a feel for it, and then the changes that you have to make, you can just make it on the fly. And you can control the size of your thumbnails right here depending on how many shots you have or whatnot, if you want to see the entire thing in one go, or maybe you can just look at, here we're looking at about 16 shots on one screen, and then I can scroll down, and I think it gives me a chunky enough image, enough real estate where I can see the details and make the changes, instead of like if it's too small or something like that. And then to take it a step further, right here, this little guy, that's the sauce. When you click right here, look, when I hover over, it says send to SDI or HDMI, whatever your output is set to, your client monitor. When you click on this guy, now it's projecting all these shots in the lightbox mode onto the client monitor. So this is good. If you got a bunch of people and you're in a big theater where you're grading, then you want to probably use this and project it onto the big screen so they can sit back, relax, and go over the entire thing with you and collaborate that way. I genuinely think it's one of the most powerful tools when it comes to shot matching and really evaluating the whole feel and the whole look at the end of your color grading session. Guys, before we begin, I just want to take a second to give you $1 million tip, and that is take as many notes as possible. When you're going through this, you think you got it, you don't need to revisit it, it's all stored in your head, but trust me, based on experience, you need this. So on a Mac, what you want to do is Command-Shift-4, and then when you hit a space bar, it will let you select a window that this little camera icon is, and then all you got to do is just left click, and then it'll take a snap. It'll pop it open in here, and then you can do a bunch of different things. So I can just draw on here and then write a little note and just say something, whatever I want to remember, or I can just save this, go to my desktop, and that's where it's dropping these images, and then have your Google Doc open, bring this image in, and just write a note, something like start with primaries, and then have a picture and move on. So the way your Google Docs, I would recommend setting them up based on per module. So one note per module, and then within those modules, break them up just as I have my lessons broken down within each module. So if you do that, you're golden. I'm gonna be very happy with you. You're gonna remember everything, and you're gonna create your own database that you can refer back to. Alright, enough talk about boring stuff. Let's jump right in. Alright, now on to the fun stuff. So first we're going to cover footage from the same camera, and I'm going to be grading 2 videos, and both are going to be based on real world projects. One is Properly Lit, a short film that I recently graded, and then the second one is shot by me with Canon C200 in RAW under natural lighting conditions. Alright, so let's get into our first project, Blind Date. So this is a short film that I did for a buddy of mine. It was shot with Alexa Mini in 444XQ. So this is how it was delivered to me, all edited as a single file. I scene cut it, and now we have our cut here. I took out a few shots. It's about 3 to 4 minutes long. I just brought it down to 1:30. Just for the demonstration purposes and what we're going to go through, but I did end up using majority of the shots that I had problems with. Now, mind you, this is shot by a proper DP. It was well lit, it was staged, and it was under controlled lighting, shot with Alexa Mini. Even then, when we start color grading, I'm going to show you how one shot to the next there's going to be differences that we're going to have to make up for and look out for. So first, I'm just going to scrub through it and kind of see what we got. A medium on him, then we got a 2 shot, then we got a medium on her, 2 shot, and then eventually you're going to see that we're going to have some punch-ins like this. So we have a close-up on him, and then eventually we're going to have a close-up on her, and then we got a couple of inserts on the wine glasses. So that's an insert on her, and then we got wine glasses at the table, and then we got more inserts of them holding hands, and then we got a super tight on her. So these are our shots. Now the funny thing is that you just have to keep in mind is when we go to this shot on her compared to this shot on her, you can already see the lighting change. And once we have the scopes, it's going to make a lot more sense. And these are the things, little nuances that you got to keep in mind when you are shot matching. So what's the first rule when you get into shot matching, or how to go about it, how to approach it? Since this is shot with the same camera, since this is shot under controlled lighting, we're going to have to find our hero shot. So what's our hero shot that we can build a color correction on where everything is balanced and ready to go? That is step number one. You don't want to start creating a grade, go ham on one shot. So you're going to start out with color correction. Then you're going to start applying that color correction to neighboring shots, and then you're going to see how everything is looking, and you're going to keep moving forward with that. And then the look is going to be the last thing. Once you have your base grade applied throughout the entire piece, then you're going to revisit and do another pass where you're going to start creating looks. I cannot stress this point enough because I know too many colorists that spend so much time on one shot creating a look, and then they try to replicate it, and it's never as easy as middle clicking and all your information is going to transfer over. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't exist in this world. You've been lied to when people are selling their LUTs and they just go, oh, you don't need to know color correction. All you need is just drop this LUT on all your images and you're golden. That's not how it works. And I'm going to show you, even after working on a project like this that's shot by a proper DP, properly lit, we still have to worry about shot matching, and there's a lot of manual labor that goes into it. So let's get going. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to go to my power grade, and you guys should have that too, but if you don't, build your node tree and do it this way, okay? Because now we're moving on, we're moving up in these modules. I don't want to keep doing the same thing. I don't want to hold your hand through everything. I am expecting that you've practiced and you've done the exercises up until this point, and if you have, you should be confident enough to follow through. And this module and moving forward, I'm going to be using my panel to color grade because it's just not the same. Using the mouse and showing you everything on the screen was necessary for color correction module, and that's why I kept it that way. In this module and color grading, it's nearly impossible to do everything here. I really have to move multiple things at once, and I cannot do that with mouse because I can only do one thing at a time. That said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop in my node tree. So once I click on that, it brings in my node tree, and I'm going to close this for 1 second for you guys to see what's happening here. So up top, I have noise reduction to send the clean signal through. Then I got my primaries where I'm going to make any adjustments necessary before the camera LUT. So this is where my camera LUT is going to go to get the color science right. Then I'm going to go back to my primaries and give it proper detail that it needs. If it crushed my blacks, I'm going to bring that detail back. I'm going to bring my highlights back, things like that. And then I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to control my skin and then build a look. Start working on the look, and then we're gonna go under look adjustment and try to fiddle with it and create something even cooler. Then we're gonna go into our vignette and accentuate our subject. Then we're gonna bring everything else down around him. We're gonna add some sharpening, which I already have. We're gonna add some grain, which I already have. And then global adjustment, we're gonna make final tweaks in here by using our light box at the end. And those changes are just gonna be global changes like overall saturation or overall exposure, things like that, to just get shots in the ballpark. And then we're gonna have a creative LUT, and that's usually, I just keep it there. I don't always use it, but it's just there if I just want to get experimental, or if I have a director or somebody with me and they just want to see something completely different, we can try it out, and we do this right here. So let's go to our LUT. I'm going to go under LUTs, I'm going to go to RE, I'm going to drop in my Rec 709, and as you can see, it looks pretty dark right now, and that is a no-go. And I'm gonna bring up my scopes. So let's just click right here and look at our scopes. So yeah, it is pretty crushed. And for this movie, it's called Blind Date. Think of it like Desperate Housewives, and they were looking for a poppy, fun look, not as dramatic as it is right now. So we're gonna have to fix that. So I'm gonna go into my primaries and I'm gonna start with lifting my gamma. I'm gonna bring up my gamma. I'm gonna bring down my gain a little bit. I'm gonna bring up my gamma more, and I'm gonna start bringing up my lift. And I'm gonna bring down my lift a little bit, bring up my gamma more, keep my lift around here somewhere. That's okay. And I'm gonna bring up my gain. Play around with it, you know? Like, just don't be afraid. Like, just make it go wherever you want it to go and then control it. So somewhere around here is where I want to keep it. And we were able to bring back quite a bit. And now I'm looking at this right here, and that's pretty much gone, because if I go completely before, we see some detail there, and now it's kind of blown out. And if it's blown out, it's okay, because it's a specular highlight and you don't want to control it too much because you're going to make it muddy. So right now we still have enough detail in there where it can stay that way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to extract a little bit more out of it if I can. So I do that by going to my noise reduction, my first node, and then I'm going to create a parallel node. And then with my parallel node, this is what I do. So I'm going to go into my qualifier. So basically now this is happening before the LUT was applied and this information was, pretty much gone. So we're trying to bring it back. So we're going to bring it back before the LUT node. So now I'm going to go under my luminance and I'm going to turn my highlights on and just go grab the problematic area. So like something like that. I'm going to grab it right here. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into my highlights and I'm going to start pulling that information back. And I'm going to say I'm just going to see what comes back, okay? So look at my scopes. Before, after, we were able to retrieve most of that information back, okay? Like you can see it right there. Now this is what I want to do. I want to balance this out because you can just see there's like so much green and the blue channel is so like buried down there. So let's just bring it up a little bit and give it some detail. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to use my primaries to dial it in. Right now there's a lot of green in there, so I want to pull that out. So the way I'm going to pull it out is I'm going to use my gamma and try to get the skin where I feel like it looks good. And then I'm going to take my gain and I'm going to move it to the red because I don't like how much weird yellow there is in the image. And then I'm going to take my gamma and counter that. So let me turn it on and off, and we're starting to get our colors back. So the colors are coming in, and now I'm going to take my lift and I'm going to balance out my blacks, okay? And then I'm going to use my gamma to kind of fight that and just get the colors right. I'm going to raise my gamma a little bit more for his skin. I'm going to bring my shadows down, bring them up a little bit, bring them down like that. I mean, if it's, so look at this, okay? If you look at the scopes right here, for a comedy and for something lighthearted, it's totally okay to keep it a little bit over 0 and kind of just keep a gentle contrast instead of like crushing everything. If you're talking about action movies or like drama, then you can really push it. But for rom-com, like a picture like that, this is totally fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and just move my gamma a little bit more towards yellow. And then I'm gonna counter that with my lift. So for my primaries, I think this is looking pretty good. And then I can come in here. Now before I do that, I do want to apply just a little bit of noise reduction to get a cleaner key. So I'm just gonna do like, bring this up to 7.4-ish and then just take out the chroma noise. And that is really good. That's already doing its job. If I punch in and show you his skin before and after, so we can just take it out and then just look what it's doing. It's a lot of chroma noise that we're pulling out, so it's looking pretty good. Now I can go back here and just add a little bit more saturation and just see what happens. I just want to see what happens, and then I can park it somewhere around here. That's okay for now. And then let's go ahead and qualify it. Forehead is usually the best area to grab the skin from. And now what I want to do is just take my lows and bring it up so I can get rid of all that extra noise that we're getting and just really grab. I'm going to expand it a little bit and then nudge it around until we, like right now we're just focusing on him. Something like that. And now what we can do is just add tons of blur. Always add blur to your keys. It's going to make it a lot less jarring. And now we can just start giving it a little bit of juice and see what happens. So something like that, not too much, just give them some life. So just hold it right there, and now what I want to do is I can go in here and I just want to experiment with my offset and just kind of move it around to see what I get. What I'm not liking, one thing that I'm just not a big fan of is this, a lot of this yellow that's happening. I'm just not in love with it. So I kind of want to give it this red. I want to take it more on this red side, to be honest, like somewhere around here. So now if I like this, then all I have to do is just grab my lift and balance out the image. And just look at it. So this is what we had, and this is where we are now. So it's a big improvement. It's just so cleaned up, and just even like her skin is looking so much better. And then overall image is just looking more balanced. And now one thing that I want to do, I'm going to come in here, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a layer node. So this is just what I meant when I was talking about, like, regardless of how well something is shot, it just really depends. I mean, we have a lot of analogous tones going on in this shot, and that's just inherently going to make it really difficult to do certain things. So one thing that I'm going to try now is I'm going to go into my 6 vector selections, and I'm going to go and pick yellow. I'm going to just pick out all the yellow in here. I'm going to turn off my highlights, and I'm just going to shift the hue a little towards red. Just like that. So we took it from this ugly, sickly yellow and we brought it over, and now I just want to go easy on the saturation. And it's starting to look better, okay? It's starting to look better. Even this right here is looking better than before. So I think it's not bad. It's pretty good. Let's play it through and see if it's clean. So it's pretty clean. And it just cleaned up the image quite a bit. And now I want to go into my background, and that's pretty much everything that the skin and this is not. So it's gonna grab that, and let's try to create something. And again, I'm gonna do this time, okay? I'm gonna go into so this is pretty cool what I'm doing right here. It's just taking out a lot of the blue, heavy blue that we have in there. It's taking that out, and it's making the entire image, if you look at right here, how it's balancing it out. And that's pretty cool. Because if I just take these 3 nodes right here, or actually these 4 nodes right here, and if I turn them on and off, you'll see how much we're manipulating our image. So just look at this. Look at that. So it's like we're coming a long way. But just remember, this is controlled environment. So here we can do all of this and then apply it on all our clips and then make micro adjustments. Okay, this is not going to be as crazy as some of the stuff we're going to work on in the later lessons. So now I'm going to come into my vignette, and so what we can do for the vignette is keep it pretty basic, like a regular vignette. So let's just go into our windows, create a window, and let me just do a generic something like that, rotate it a little so it's just a bit more organic, bring it in somewhere around here, and then give it tons of softness, something like that. And then I want to go in and I want to reverse it, okay? And now what we can do is we can just pull everything down quite a bit. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to lock that out. Let's lock this in and then just pull everything around our dude down a little. Not too much, just a little, because I don't want to make the whole image being too dark. So I'm going to bring this up. I just want to put a bit more emphasis on him. And then I want to go to my next node and just do a gentle curve. So I'm actually going to do this. Watch this. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to turn on my editable splines. I'm going to grab this and just look what I do. This adds a very, very gentle S. Like, look what it's doing. So super, super gentle. And I'm just going to take this and try to bring it down. But if I don't have to, I won't. So I don't think I have to. So I'm just going to go back on that. I'm just going to take this and just look. It just pops him out. It just adds the right amount of pop on him. And if I grab these 2 layers and if I do before and after, look how much we're adding. Like, look what's happening. Big difference, very natural. So now if I grab these along with these, and if I just do all the stuff that we did after our primaries, it's pretty nice, and it's putting us in that rom-com world. And we were able to do all that with not that much. So it's looking really clean. And we already have our sharpness in place. We already have our grain in place. And then the global adjustment is going to come in handy later down the road. So now that we have this set up, I think it's looking pretty good. I'm ready to start dropping that on to a bunch of clips. So one thing that we know, what we can try actually and see how it works is I'm going to go ahead and group clips all the shots on him. So we know that we have a single on him, we have a single on her, we have a 2 shot, and then within those we have variations. So we got a medium on him, we got a tight on him, so we got a medium on her, we got a tight on her. So let's go ahead and create groups for each one, and then we'll see how that's gonna come in handy. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and select all my medium shots of him. So I'm selecting just the medium shots. And I'm gonna go ahead and right click and say add into new group, and I'm gonna do, his name is Pavel Medium. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna select, is that a medium shot too? So that's a little bit different than this shot, so I'm gonna just consider that a close-up. So now let's go ahead and grab all the close-ups with him, which there aren't many. And then there's this one. We're gonna do Pavel close-up, see you. And now what I want to do is go ahead and just grab all the two shots. So something funny is happening here. I knew it. So anytime you see two shots like that back to back, especially in a scene cut environment, just know that there's a mistake. Somehow Resolve didn't add an appropriate cut, so we have to do it ourselves. So I'm just gonna go ahead and manually add the cut in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and blade it. There you go. And now we go in, and this is part of the medium shot or close up. Let me see. So this is part of the medium shot. So we're just gonna go ahead and say, put it in medium, assigned to group, and now it's assigned. So let's just continue with our two shots, two shot, and two shot. Eventually, if I find any more mistakes like we just did, we're just gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go manually blade it and then add it to its appropriate group. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this two shot. And then let's go here. That's a medium on her, I believe. And then that's another medium. That's a close-up. That's a close-up. So that's a medium. I mean, that's pretty close, but I would consider that a close-up. So let's do... Okay, let's... Alright, so let's put the crazy close-ups in close-up that there are. So this can also be a medium shot, I believe. Let's just do 1, 2, 3 as super close-ups. So we're just gonna do a new group and we're gonna do Ali close-up. Okay, now we're gonna grab all the medium shots with her. Just know that even in these medium shots, it's not like one grade and we're just gonna apply it and it's gonna work. We're still gonna have to go in and fudge with it just a little bit, but it's gonna help us out quite a bit. Now let's just go ahead and grab all the inserts. So we got this insert, we got that insert, and this one. So we got 3 inserts, and I'm just gonna do inserts. So now we got all of that taken care of. All our groups are in. Couple of things that you need to know about groups, and we can look at them this way. So check this out. We can basically filter through, like how all our clips are in here right now. We can filter them through based on groups. So we can just really go, give me all the mediums on him. And then it's really easy because I've already created this look. And again, we want to make it really poppy and crazy, and we can always make tiny adjustments in at the end. We're just going to leave it as is for now. And now I can grab all these clips and then just middle click on this one, and it's going to apply my grade through and through. And for the most part, I'm just like going through it, and I got to be honest, it's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to say show me all clips. So now just take me back, show me all clips, and then you can see where it's applying the grades. So like all the medium shots, the grades have been applied. You can start to see the power of like working this way and shot matching, and once you do a little bit of work, like how much time you can save instead of just like manually clicking through these. And again, I cut this short film in quarter the length of what it was. So if you had, I think total, I had like 120 shots or 100 shots or something like that. So now we're down to 30. And how many medium shots we had? Now imagine out of 130 shots, how many times you have to do middle click, and this way you don't have to worry about any of that, and it's just sort of like an automated process. It just does it for you. So let me take this and apply it, how close we get. So if I try to, now I'm going to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this and go version, and I'm going to select selected clips. And now I can see my other shot to this one, and I can easily see that it's overexposed, and we can even see it right here that the shot on the right, like everything is lifted on the shot on the left hand side. So this is where we will make our changes on the global adjustment. So if I go in my global adjustment and grab my gain and I just bring it down, let's see, hopefully that will fix it. And I feel like it does. I mean, if you look at like how much extra pop there is, and even in the scopes, just look at it, like look at the blues right here, blue level, and like this is how it was before and now, and same thing with greens. Like look at how lifted it is compared to here. And then the reds, look at the top of the red, it was lifted and now we brought it back. So that right there did the trick for our tight shots. And let me just jump between the two, and what I can do is I can go in and select under grouped. I can do all his close-ups and then try to drop this in and see if it works. Okay, so we'll leave it at that for now, and let's just keep moving along, and then at the end we can obviously always revisit that. So we're pretty much done with him, and now we can just move on to her medium. And I'm gonna park on my hero pose here somewhere, and then let's start our grade off of this and see where we are. And it's actually looking really, really nice. It's really nice. I mean, it's even adding like a proper glow, which looks really clean. I'm actually liking that a lot. I want to see how much of my highlights node is working right now. It's working really nicely. Like, look what it's doing. Just giving her so much juice back. It's so nice. It makes her skin so much more even. And now I want to go in here and see what's happening. So that skin node is also adding just the right amount of warmth. It's looking really nice. And because, let me see what this is doing. So that's taking some of that saturation out, which I like. And then I want to come in here and see, so that's taking all that blue out and making it a very properly balanced image. And we can see that right here at the bottom, how it's just properly balanced. And let me see what this is doing, and that's just adding that red undertone that we have going on with the entire thing. So I think we want to keep that. I'm liking that red undertone, and it just gives a nice color to her hair, her skin, and even her dress. And it pops out the green in the bench. I really like it. And then let's see what these guys are doing. So I'm going to select these two and turn it on and off. It just puts the emphasis where it's supposed to be. It's working really nicely. And obviously our winner is our primaries. I mean, this is, I keep telling you guys, this is where the power is at. The pristine image is created right here. I mean, just look at this image, okay? How dark it is and where it's sitting. Just look at that, where this image is sitting and where we brought it to without losing anything. I mean, this is clean. You can zoom in on it all day long, and it's the cleanest image that you can get. And we were able to do that by using your primaries properly. Okay, so I feel like going from here to here, it's really nice. Now, we can go back in there later on, or we can even do it right now. I can grab these two and I can turn this on and play it back on a loop and just see what's happening. I'm going to turn the audio off right now so I can just focus on that. So one thing that I'm noticing is that obviously the contrast is not right, although I mean it kind of looks like it's just a little bit lifted, right? So if we can just see the greens here compared to here, so it's just overall a little bit lifted. So I'm going to go under my global adjustment and I'm just going to grab my log wheels and I'm going to bring this down. So now I'm getting that similar contrast, and it's the little things. There's going to be these little subtleties, and that's what's going to make all the difference in the world, okay? So all we had to do is, I didn't want to change everything. So if I would have gone with my lift, it would have changed everything on her face and it just would have brought down too much. And I want this soft sort of contrast on her, but then I wanted to match the contrast of the actual image to this, and I did that by using my log wheels, which is a lot more targeted, and then I used my shadows and I just pulled it down a little bit. So this is why I told you guys that split screen is my favorite thing. It just makes it so much easier to dial that stuff in. And guys, honestly, I'm loving this. This is really nice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this to all of these shots. I'm actually gonna go in here and I'm gonna go to medium, and I'm just gonna take all of these and I'm gonna drop that on. And the thing is that, let's go through this because I feel like it kind of gets darker. So see, even the difference between these two, isn't that funny? Like, I mean, just look at these. How bright she is to like how dark she is in these shots. So again, I would say let's stay in here, and this time I'm just going to use my gain and try to bring it up because I'm looking at it right here and the difference. So a couple of things, right? So I can use my gain, but let's just try something different this time. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm just going to raise it until I come close to where I'm supposed to be. So now I'm seeing my green, my blues, my reds, and if I turn it on and off, the contrast might be getting a bit out of control. So I'm going to go in here and turn this off. So now I'm looking at the contrast between these two shots and it's looking on point. The colors are looking good. I'm looking at right here and here, like all these colors. Now everything is matching. I feel like there might be a little bit more color in here than here. But let me just play it through and look at it. There's definitely more color here than here. So what I can do is just go into my global saturation and just pull it a little bit. And then park it somewhere around here. So this is before, and then this is after, and just notice the difference. Just look what we're doing. We're leaving the DNA as is, and then we're going into our global adjustment and we're making these micro adjustments. That's why setting up your node tree like this is so important. So this is looking good, and I feel like now what's going to happen is that we can really take this and apply it to, I'm going to turn this off really fast and apply this. Okay, so this doesn't work. This is actually good, but let me just see how that works out with this shot. So another thing that we have to keep in mind is where is this, because that is also important. So we're gonna kind of have to move these shot by shot basis just to make sure that we get the meat where it's supposed to be. So let's just turn this off for a second and go to all clips and see what's happening. So I want to go to this shot because I like the colors here, and I feel like the colors are just kind of muted here. So let me just give it a little bit more saturation, because I really want to match the colors of this. Like there's a lot of burst, like there's a ton of color in here. Okay, so I want to kind of match that, and I feel like now we're matching it. So then when we go to this shot, now let me go from this to that, and one thing that I want to do is give it that color and then go from this to that and see what's happening. So I feel like let's go back to global, and I just want to reset my saturation because I want saturation. And now something like that. So I mean, as I'm looking at these two shots back to back, I'm just realizing that it needs, I'm gonna turn that off and I'm gonna just play it naturally. You know, that just works a lot better. It matches so much better. So let me do the same here. So basically I'm raising my gamma quite a bit and then I'm balancing it out with lift. So because I want the environment to feel really bright, and then I'm just gonna balance it out with lift, and I'm gonna bring the lift down, and this gives her a really nice contrast as well. And then let's just go start from this shot. And I feel like that just feels a bit better. And then what I can do is I can bring my gain down a little bit and keep raising my mids and then balance it out with my lift. And let's play it through. So let's park it here somewhere for now and then keep moving on. And let's go from here to here, and again we're just noticing that I'm gonna undo that, and what we're noticing is that there's a bit too much crunch going on in these shots, and we just have to raise our gamma and bring our gain down to make up for it. Okay, so it's gonna be that sort of action. I'm gonna lift my gamma up to bring more into the environment, and then I'm gonna bring my gain down a little bit, and then we're gonna balance it out with our lift to keep the contrast where it's supposed to be. So let's just go back, going into from this shot to that shot, and then here we can just kind of go easy. We don't have to go that aggressive on here, so I'm just gonna bring that down even lower. So just a little pop instead of like the pop that we were getting. So let me just grab these two shots and now turn on split screen, and then let's just do a loop. So let's play it through and see how it looks. Going from here to here, looking much better. I like these, I like this. And now I'm gonna apply the same grade. So you're seeing what I'm talking about, right? Like none of these grades are applying, and you would wonder what the hell is going on. This is all in the same environment. How is this happening? Like, why am I going from this, look how different this looks, to when I go right here? Like, what is really happening? And that's what I'm talking about. Like, nothing is ever copy paste operation, even if it's shot in controlled environment like this. This does not look good. I have to fix that. So I'm gonna open these up next to each other and see what the hell is going on. Something is just not right. So probably it just needs to be fixed right here. So I'm just gonna reset this and then like rebuild the grade on top of that. And I think I'm looking at it here and they're pretty even. The only difference is that it's pretty shadowy. Like just look at under our eyes. So I'm gonna use shadow to bring that up. So basically that tool is pretty much used for like HDR sort of situation, and now I'm just gonna go to my log and bring it down to match our black levels with what we got going on, and I can see that it's doing quite a bit. And now I'm just gonna go into saturation and just pull it down a little bit, just a hair. And now if I look at it before and after, it's doing quite a bit. It might have just fixed that situation. So it's knowing the right tools that you need for specific tasks. Just look at the difference. So I'm going to turn that off and then show you before and after. So just look at how dark and weird it looks, and like how much detail we were able to pull out of her face, and especially in the shadow areas. So it's looking pretty good. So now what we can do is I'm just going to play it through from his shot from right here to like going into here. And it's looking pretty good. I mean, it still feels a little hot like right here. So what I want to do is I want to go right here and see how we're controlling that. So I mean, we're doing quite a bit there. What I can do here is I can just take my highlights and bring them down just a little bit. And now play it through. So let's go back. And there's a weird little yellowish action going on here, and I just want to make sure that that is sort of contained. So I'm going to go in here and just pull that towards right there. All right, and then let's move on to this shot. Just again, let's match these two and see where we sit in terms of our overall contrast and everything. And I feel like I can bring this down just a touch. Something like that. So let's get rid of this and look at that. Another thing that I'm noticing is that we definitely have to add more noise reduction. So I would go to 11-ish here, and that's doing the trick for now. And let's play it through. I feel like if we just go from this frame to this frame, there's still way more light on her. I mean, just look at it here, how much light is on her than him. So we just have to bring that down. And then let's just go back one frame. And then we can just go, one technique that I do to like give it that juice back is just grab your logs and then raise it up. And then that's gonna give it that punch. But then this way we are matching. Right there, we're matching their skins. And it's looking pretty good there. And one more thing, once you use the shadow and bring everything up, like how we use the shadows to bring up the detail, it does add a lot of saturation in the shadows. So to kind of tame that and control that, I would use Luma versus Sat and click this guy right here and then take my shadows and just kind of bring them down a little bit. And that's doing a little bit. So that's not bad at all. And now if I just go from here, play it through, you can see that. So that's looking pretty good. Can't really complain. Alright, moving on to this tight, and let's see if anything transfers over here. I'm just gonna apply this grade right here, and let's try a couple of different ones and see how different they are. I mean, just look at it, like it's kind of unreal to how different each grade is. Like, what the hell? Like, it's just insane. It's crazy. So I'm gonna try to stick with this one, but obviously we have to make some changes here. So expand that, and then the skin is just falling a little bit too on the red side, so I'm gonna pull that out. And again, let me just bring everything down quite a bit like that, and then take my highlights and bring it up. And now let me just match it to this. So what I want to do is I want to go to her face and just give it a little bit more color. So you're just getting a feel for how difficult it is to grade a controlled environment shoot that's shot with the same camera, and how many different challenges that we're facing just in terms of the contrast change, and once you adjust that, how it affects the color in the overall picture. And there's so many things that are going on right now. So right now we dialed in our singles, tights, and medium shots on them, and now we're going to move on and work on our two shot, and then we're going to do our inserts, and then at the end we're going to bring it all together. So let's start off with our baseline. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to try, so this is looking better, and I'm just going to select these two shots and then check it out and see what we have to do. So I feel like overall it's not bad, but again, I'm just going to raise my midtones quite a bit, and then I'm just going to adjust my blacks by using lift. And just right here, I think we were able to pull up quite a bit. But now I don't like how it's adding yellow, and I'm just gonna go ahead and take my that node that we were using to switch it over. So I'm gonna keep it somewhere around here, bring my log wheels and just bring some of the detail back somewhere around here, and that's not bad. So now these are all my two shots, and I can already see that the contrast has gotten quite crazy in these, and we might have to make some adjustments, but again, we're just going to do that at the end. Now I'm going to go to my inserts, and I'm going to apply a couple of things that we have here, and then see if there's one that can give us a half decent start. So this one is not bad. It's also not great. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my log and I'm gonna raise that so I can give my white a proper white. And you know what, let's reset this and let's rebuild it. So I'm gonna go into my highlights first and try to bring that back, bring some of that information back, and then I want to see I want to go here and raise that up. And then I want to pull that down because I want to create some contrast. Something like that. And then I'm going to play it through. Something like that. Now we're living in that red bias thing that we got going on, and let me just apply this here. Look at the skin tones, and they're just not looking right. So let's go ahead and grab those skin tones. And let's just play it through from here and see how it works. So that's the last shot. Okay, so we got something going on. We just did a pass through the entire thing. Now what I want to do is I am parked on my global node for most of these shots. Just want to make sure that I am parked on this, and then when I'm going to be making my overall adjustments, they're going to be made on this particular node. Okay, now let's go to our light box right there, and then this color control is pretty rad. And then I can put this right here, and now I can scroll through and see how everything is looking. So let's just go through and kind of see if we're in the right ballpark, and I can see that overall it's pretty good. This shot particularly kind of sticks out quite a bit. It's almost like just the lighting changed here, or what happened, because you look at this to this, maybe the way she's sitting, because she's like lit from the top, like here, it just really makes it challenging for that shot to work. But then once she leans back, everything looks fine here. So see, this one can come up a little bit because you look at these shots to this. So this one can come up just a little bit, so I'm just going to take my gain and raise it a little bit, something like that. Alright, so I'm going to watch it through at twice the speed, and then let's just see how it looks. So going from this shot to this shot, I feel like we gotta lift it a little bit. So I'm gonna raise my gamma quite a bit, and I'm gonna bring my lift down. Let me just pull this over so you guys can see what's happening, and give it a little bit more saturation, and let's go in here and swap the hue a little bit to give it a little bit more red. Actually pull the saturation down a little bit, but definitely give it more hue. And pull the saturation back a little bit. Let me see. Again, this one can use some lift too, so I'm going to give it some gain. I'm going to give it some gamma. I'm going to pull some lift down. Okay, so that's it. We were able to use multiple techniques here. So we used our group clips here. That saved us a ton of time. Then we went in, we used our split screen and selected clips and played them in real time to really dial in everything. Then at the end, we were able to use Lightbox to make macro adjustments, and finally we watched the whole thing through and made some last minute changes to bring it all home. This was Blind Date. I hope you guys got to see that copy pasting is a concept that does not exist in the world of color grading. Even if you have controlled environment and something shot with Alexa Mini at 444XQ, there's still a lot that goes into it. Let's move on to our second lesson in same camera.